A second motion filed to challenge the Guyana government's no-confidence vote loss, our top story in Caribbean Newsline for Tuesday, January 8th. From the CMC News Center in Bridgetown, I'm Dawn Paris. Good evening. The Guyana government on Monday filed a motion in the High Court challenging the legality of the opposition motion of no confidence in the David Granger administration. This is the second challenge to last month's motion, which was passed when a government backbencher sided with the opposition to give 33 yes votes to 32 no votes in the 65-member National Assembly. Monday's challenge was filed by Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Basil Williams. No date has been set yet for the hearing. In this report, we get the details about what the government is asking in court documents that have been released by the Attorney General's chambers.
The legal document states that the applicant, in this case Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, Basil Williams, is seeking determination for several questions relating to the December 21, 2018 vote in the National Assembly. It seeks to determine whether the Speaker's ruling that the motion was carried by a vote of a majority of all the elected members of the National Assembly is unlawful, null and void, being contrary to Article 106(6) of the Constitution. Whether the motion upon a division vote of 32 members of the National Assembly was validly passed as the requisite majority of all the elected members of the National Assembly pursuant to Article 106(6) of the Constitution. Whether the requisite majority of all the elected members of the National Assembly ought to be 34 votes. Further, it seeks to determine whether the President and all ministers of the government can remain in office as a majority vote was not duly carried in accordance with Article 106(6) of the Constitution. Whether the court can make an order setting aside or nullifying the Speaker's ruling that a motion was carried, as well as whether the court can make an order staying the enforcement of Resolution 101 declared by the Clerk of the National Assembly to have been passed on December 21, 2018 in the National Assembly. And lastly, whether the court can grant a conservatory order preserving the status quo ante that the President and all ministers of government remain in office until the hearing and determination of the questions being sought. The coalition government is contending that a majority of votes was not obtained to the December 21, 2018 vote.
Staying in Georgetown, ExxonMobil has announced that it has begun drilling one of two wells planned for January. The Stina Karen drill ship is drilling the Hymara 1 well, located 19 miles east of a discovery in the southeast Stabroek block. The development comes just over 2 weeks after ExxonMobil suspended seismic data gathering activities in the northwest portion of the Stabroek block when a contracted vessel was confronted by the Venezuelan army. The oil company says drilling and development operations offshore Guyana have been unaffected by the December 22nd incident, which occurred more than 110 kilometers from the Ranger discovery. That's the closest of 10 discoveries made by ExxonMobil in the southeast section of the Stabroek block. The Noble Tom Madden drill ship is expected to drill the second well, Tilapia 1, later this month. A political comedy central. That's how Trinidad and Tobago's opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar has described Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley's report to the nation. She said the Twin Island Republic's leader behaved like a crybaby by still blaming the former United National Congress government after 3 years in office. In part one of his two-part address, Rowley accused the previous administration of wasting billions of dollars and leaving the Treasury in a bad state. But at a media conference on Monday, Persad-Bissessar denied the charges, dismissed Rowley's utterances as lies and distortions, and challenged him to prove his allegations. Ian Wason of TTT News reports.
Opposition leader Kamala Persad-Bissessar says her government did not leave an empty treasury. She says of the $290 billion they spent in 5 years, we can see where the money went.
We can show what we did with that money. We can show, for example, 102 schools. We can show hospitals. We can show police stations. We can show infrastructural development, roads and bridges and so on. We can show houses that we built.
The opposition leader also called on Dr. Rowley to come forward and prove the claims.
Look, if you name man, I'm willing to take you on manos y manos in a public debate on all these issues that you have raised in the Parliament. One-on-one, I will engage you.
Mrs. Posal-Bissessar said she will, however, accept blame for bringing the crime rate down to the lowest in 31 years.
Meanwhile, Prime Minister Rowley is defending recent job cuts at the state-owned oil company Petrotrin. In part 2 of his national report aired on Monday night, he said the closure of the refinery was one of the toughest decisions his administration was forced to take since coming to office in 2015. Rowley also revealed that the company was carrying a $13 billion debt and owed $4 billion in royalties and taxes to the government.
Up to the point when we intervened, the prior business of Petrotrin delivered to this country $13 billion in debt. And the only reason why people were lending Petrotrin money is because the government owns it 100%. And it's against the understanding that if the company can't pay, the government will stand in the shoes of the company. That's called a contingent liability.
Well, 1,000 of the employees will be rehired by new company Heritage Petroleum. In the Bahamas, National Security Minister Marvin Dames is reporting some progress in the country's fight against crime in 2018. Addressing the annual church service of law enforcement officials, he said there was an increase in drug and firearm seizures, a reduction in the murder count, and enhanced training for officers. More in this report from ZNS Network News.
In his address to law enforcement officers, the Minister of National Security, the Honorable Marvin Dames, said 2018 was a historic year for the Royal Bahamas Police Force. He says that he's pleased with the dramatic turnaround and renewed focus of the organization towards the reduction of crime.
As a result of this new level of motivation and performance, 283 firearms and 6,250 rounds of ammunition were taken off of the streets of the Bahamas this year. Because of this high level of productivity, over 10,292 pounds of marijuana and 182 pounds of cocaine were seized. Because of this increased level of professionalism, a total of 1,213 law enforcement officers and civilians have been trained in 2018.
Despite the many accomplishments of the force in 2018, the Minister of National Security says the Bahamas is still faced with an unacceptable level of crime. Meantime, advanced training will be provided to officers through the University of the Bahamas. He told those in the senior ranks to now identify officers who can succeed them. Dames said he will also review the concerns of officers. The National Security Minister encouraged law enforcement officers to avoid corruption and serve with honor and integrity.
Still to come in Caribbean Newsline, Grenadian lawyers get support from the OECS Bar Association in their fight for improvements in the judicial system. Stay with us.
Follow your heart to St. Kitts and make plans to join us at the 23rd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival. 5 days of world-class entertainment from Wednesday, June 26th to Sunday, June 30th, 2019. See Butcher Banton live as he makes his epic return to St. Kitts.
Me all walk like a champion, talk like a champion. What a piece of money, girl.
Also, French Montana and Davido.
If I tell you
Popcorn.
Wine for me, wine.
And the legendary Smokey Robinson. This is just the first wave of announcements. Many more acts to come. For more information, log on to StKidsMusicFestival.net. The St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other.
Over hills and valleys too.
Welcome back. The Organization of Eastern Caribbean States Bar Association on Tuesday expressed support for Grenadian lawyers who staged a silent protest outside the Supreme Court Registry on Monday. And it has urged regional governments to construct modern buildings to house the judiciary. In a statement, the association, grouping lawyers from the sub-region, said that it has repeatedly highlighted the central importance of the rule of law in buttressing any democratic society. It says when the courts are closed and litigants are accused people are unable to have their day in court or their issues resolved in a timely manner, democracy is undermined. Monday's protest by members of the Grenada Bar Association was aimed at pressing the government to provide suitable accommodations to collectively house all high courts and ancillary services. In its statement, the OECS Bar Association called on the Keith Mitchell administration to urgently address the many challenges of the justice system, provide adequate resources to arrest the growing backlog of cases in the high courts, and create the kind of environment that allows the wheels of justice to grind efficiently and effectively for citizens. St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has reiterated a call for CARICOM to adopt a united position regarding the European Union's new tax measures. He told a news conference on Monday that his country has no intention of rolling over to appease Europe. The Bahamas, Grenada and St. Vincent and the Grenadines have already passed legislation, while other Caribbean countries are contemplating doing so, as Europe moves to force countries to adopt measures regarding the establishment of international businesses in the region. Gonsalves said countries are already responding differently to the situation depending on their own circumstances.
Because the major players in this business, the major countries in CARICOM, Jamaica, Trinidad and Guyana, don't have this issue dealing with. This issue now indeed Suriname, or indeed Haiti, which is 10 million of the 16 million people in CARICOM. This is a matter which is largely a question for the OECS and Barbados, as it has panned out, as you notice. And there has not been a common approach, though there have been, between professionals and leaders, shared ideas, but not a common approach.
Jamaica's opposition People's National Party is insisting that the number of dengue-related deaths in the country is higher than the figure reported by the Ministry of Health. The ministry has confirmed 7 deaths from the mosquito-borne virus, 4 of which occurred at Bustamante Hospital for Children. But opposition spokesman on health, Dr. Dayton Campbell, has refuted that, saying that based on information he has received, there have been at least 8 dengue-related deaths at the Bustamante Hospital alone. He also questioned why the $250 million now allocated to fighting dengue was not provided earlier to prevent the outbreak.
The minister continues to operate without consultation and consensus. I am prepared to say today, if the minister, having been forewarned, had sought to have discussion with me about an early spend for dengue, even if dengue did not reach to an outbreak, I would have been the first to defend his actions in trying to take measures to mitigate against us reaching to the point of having an outbreak.
But the health minister has defended his ministry's handling of the dengue outbreak. He says an outbreak could not be declared until it was clinically correct to do so, and the approach taken by local epidemiologists was of international standard.
It is not an absolute situation in that it assumes that there are some cases that are not reported. It assumes that some doctors may just treat. In fact, the majority of dengue cases are so mild that if you turn up at a doctor, you have a headache, you have a fever, there is a suspicion that it could be dengue, a doctor may just administer the Panadol or the Cetamol, encourage you to rest and to rehydrate, and don't report. So it is not unusual for cases that are not reported.
Staying in Jamaica, small farmers will soon begin benefiting from the island's marijuana industry. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says the Alternative Development Program, which will provide an avenue for small farmers, will start by March. The pilot will involve the farming of marijuana to provide raw materials for processors. The program is intended to prevent and eliminate the illicit cultivation of marijuana and channel the process through legal system. It stipulates the tagging of plants under a track and trace mechanism, sale of products through licensed processors, farmers' alignment to community-based associations or organizations, accommodating special groups such as the Maroons and Rastafarians, and a maximum cultivation per farmer of half an acre. Ahead in Newsline Sport, wins for the Windward Islands Volcanoes and Guyana Scorpions as the regional 4-day competition continues. We'll be right back.
We have Chef Manfred Schmidtke. He's already up there on the set.
Yes, and he's our head judge, our chief judge.
He's our chief judge, and joining them, of course, will be Chef Antonel Bayer. So lots and lots of prizes they'll be battling for here in the culinary arena. And this is fantastic to see the enthusiasm of these young students here, these young culinarians, as they get going in the culinary arena.
Chef Nikita, what is happening there at Trinidad and Tobago?
Trinidad and Tobago seems to have already started the start.
Follow your heart to St. Kitts and make plans to join us at the 23rd Annual St. Kitts Music Festival. 5 days of world-class entertainment from Wednesday, June 26th to Sunday, June 30th, 2019. See Buju Banton live as he makes his epic return to St. Kitts.
Me all walk like a champion, talk like a champion. What a piece of money can get.
Also, French Montana and Davido.
If I tell you
Popcorn and the legendary Smokey Robinson. This is just the first wave of announcements. Many more acts to come. For more information, log on to stkitsmusicfestival.net. The St. Kitts Music Festival, an experience like no other.
over hills and valleys too.
If you are really a fan of 90s R&B, you might recognize this young lady to my left from one of the dopest groups from back in the day, Ex-Girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
That's a trademark right there. Yeah.
This was from the 90s.
So wait, is that a cassette single?
Yes, this is a cassette.
Now
we were produced by Full Force.
Welcome back. Earlier I referred to the Guyana Scorpions. We know there's no such team. The Guyana Jaguars is what I was speaking about. Well, Windward Islands Volcanoes captain Kirk Edwards struck a responsible half-century, and rookie Kevin Hodge added another as their team produced an admirable run chase to easily brush aside Jamaica Scorpions by 5 wickets on the final day of their day-night regional first-class contest on Monday. Resuming from their overnight 176 for 4 in search of 287 for victory at Sabina Park, Volcanoes hardly put a foot wrong as they marched to their target for the loss of just 1 more wicket. The victory was their second win of the tournament. Edwards, the former West Indies Test vice-captain, converted his overnight 35 not out into a top score of 76, while Kevin Hodge, unbeaten on 15 at the start, saw Volcanoes home with an unbeaten 59. It was their 99-run 5th wicket stand which snuffed the life out of the Scorpions' attack and erased any doubt about the result. Edwards faced 192 deliveries and counted 6 fours and a 6, while Hodge struck 6 fours in his 119-ball stay at the crease. West Indies fast bowler O'Shane Thomas eventually claimed Edwards, but Alec Anthony's arrived to carve out a polished, unbeaten 23 off 35 balls with 4 fours in an unbroken 33-run, 6-wicket stand with Hodge. Meanwhile, 4-time reigning champions Guyana Jaguars held their nerve to beat star-studded Barbados Pride by 6 wickets on a dramatic final day on Monday and extend their lead at the top of the regional 4-day standings. Set a meager 45 for victory at Kensington Oval, following Pride's sudden collapse in the final session for 232 in their second innings of the third-round contest. Jaguars slumped to 21 for 4. Chris Barnwell was smartly held at first slip by Ashley Nurse off speedster Miguel Cummings, and off the very next ball, Sherfane Rutherford nicked a catch behind. When man of the match Chandra Paul Hemraj was bowled by 1 from Roach, which kept low, the nerves were creeping into the Jaguars camp. But all-rounder Raymond Reefer, with 15 not out, and captain Leon Johnson on 11 not out, dashed any hopes Pride harbored of a come-from-behind win. Well, captain of the Leeward Islands Hurricanes, Kieran Powell, says it was a team effort that saw his side crush Trinidad and Tobago Red Force just before lunch. He says they sensed the whole side showing signs of weariness going into the second day, and they took advantage.
Obviously, they'd be tired going into their innings, so I think that worked out well for us in allowing us to get early wickets with batters' minds not being fresh and the bodies being tired. And I think to go back and bat again and to put some more miles on their legs before they had to bat again a second time. So I think it was a total team effort from us, starting with the bat, getting a good score, and then our bowlers first and second innings having a good workout.
But TNT head coach Kelvin Williams believes Team Red Force batsmen needed to apply themselves.
The batsmen them need to apply themselves a little bit more. Yeah, the wickets have a little thing in it, but no demon. And I thought that, one-shot selection by one of our batters really caused a slide in the batting order. I thought the application, poor. I think Jeremy Susanna actually showed us how to do it, in both innings. I thought he batted extremely well, first. But I think the rest of the batsmen need to actually take a page out of his book and to make sure that, yes, they do what he's doing, because he's successful in doing it.
A look at the standings in the competition now. Both Leeward Islands Hurricanes and Windward Islands Volcanoes have leapfrogged Barbados Pride after posting their impressive wins on the final day of the third round of matches. Hurricanes now lie second on 43.6 points, while Volcanoes are up to third on 38.2 points, behind early leaders Guyana Jaguars, who have 58.4 points. Trinidad and Tobago Red Force, perennial powerhouses, saw their woes continue with their second defeat in as many matches and are now fifth on 10.2 points. Scorpions, with an identical record, lie bottom on 9.8 points. Still in cricket, Guyana Jaguars head coach Isan Crandon has reportedly been appointed assistant head coach of the senior men's squad. More in this HGP Sport report.
He had out to be in the position he is in now, and that he was just concerned about playing cricket at the highest level possible. Now he has an opportunity to influence cricketers at a high level. This appointment comes after Enoch Lewis's letter, where he states that advice was given from the director of cricket to use men from the existing coaching staff for promotion, a list of which Isan Crandon was part and parcel.
Over to the Cayman Islands, where officials are stepping up efforts to ensure athletes are on top of their game as the country prepares to host the Carifta Games. With over a decade of poor showing at major competitions, athletics coach Kareem Street Thompson was asked by Cayman 27's Jordan Armanese how he'll improve the island's amateur athletic program mere months ahead of the Games.
That's a very complicated question, but basically, having been through it myself, I know that, at the core of the athletics program, There are athletes and coaches that are 100% committed to what they're doing.
And since leaving Cayman to pursue a coaching career in the NCAA, Commonwealth Games bronze medalist, now Texas San Antonio assistant head coach Kareem Street Thompson says Cayman's athletics program still has yet to reach its potential.
There are certain sports on this island that are flourishing, and I would like to see track and field in that same vein.
And with 6 athletes currently competing in the American collegiate ranks, Street Thompson says Cayman's athletes have overcome the odds.
For a sample size as small as Cayman is, I think Cayman has been able to produce individuals that are capable of being world class year after year after year.
Just to have him here, looking at him on the field with the kids, is awesome.
And CIAA President Lance Barnes says the association will provide more opportunities for its athletes in 2019.
So 6 meets in addition to what we have here. And then we'll have our character trials qualifying in March. And then there will be a second option again to qualify just before character.
And with this being arguably the most important Carifta Games in the association's history, the Athletics Association are hoping its efforts will pay off come Easter weekend against the region's best.
And that's the sport. We'll be right back.
You know, most Americans probably don't even realize that the phrase blowing your stack actually dates back to the early days of Queen Victoria, when she would blow her stack every single day.
People will always respond more to a model. The model-made feel is inherent in the whole of the model engines. My job was to make the 25th scale model of the Jenny Hanover.
Again, the major developments of this day: a second motion filed to challenge the Guyana government's no-confidence vote loss. And in sport, wins for the Windward Islands Volcanoes and Guyana Jaguars as the regional 4-day tournament continues. And that's Caribbean Newsline. For news and sport around the clock, subscribe to CanonNews.com, and for more of our programming, log on to caribvision.tv and check out our YouTube channel. We will be back here again tomorrow. But from all of us at CMC News, thank you for watching and have a good night.